Yeah.
We got you, okay.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The first item on the agenda, resolution number 24-40, a resolution for the city of Normandy in support of the Normandy Police Department's application to the Missouri Department of Public Safety, Office of Homeland Security, for the competitive grant to procure the unnamed aircraft system UAS and adopting a policy governing their use. And Officer Lawson, Major Lawson and Chief Sanders are gonna talk about that.
Sure. Sure, so this is a grant that we're able to apply for because two of the officers here with the department are members of the Department of Homeland Security Counterterrorism Officer Program, specialized training they have that's focused on hardening targets for public gatherings or critical infrastructure, things like that. This is a grant that is open as of October 9th and it closes September 6th. The maximum award for the grant is $7,500. There's a number of allowable items. The allowable item in conversation with Chief that was decided would best suit the department would be an unmanned aircraft system, commonly called a drone. So we would be able to facilitate using this to sort of better, I would say, better allocate resources for the department, particularly in case in high, very fluid situations, high stress situations, where it would benefit us to kind of have an eye in the sky. Although we do have access to the county's air unit, they're not always in the area, they're not always available. So this is a great way to sort of enhance, our department's ability to increase public safety and increase our efficiency. So that's what the resolution that you have in front of you states. And we would love to have the support. We feel like it's important to have your buy-in with anything that we do that benefits the city. So that's kind of spelled out here. As you guys probably know, the drones are really becoming more popular, more prevalent, not just for law enforcement use, but just recreational use, et cetera. So in addition to this, Chief has instituted a policy for drones for the department that would govern the department's use of the drone, and also put restrictions on the use of the drone. So there's certain protected activities that we want spelled out that are not, they're not able to be surveilled because we have an interest in protecting, the citizens' rights as well. Make sure there's no overreach of any kind, which is why we want to put that general order and policy in front of you as well for review. In addition to that, I know that I had approached Andy about a possible ordinance governing drone use as well, because there are certain state statutes and federal guidelines for drone use. So that's something I'll be proposing that we couldn't quite get through today, but that I would pose as part of this kind of drone program that we would like to implement for the city. But I don't know if there are parts of the packets. I think that Dano is still printing some of them out. As far as the actual general order of the policy for the department, I can go print those as well if she doesn't have them. I know she was printing them out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Oh,
This is the model policy.
correct.
Did she copy it, or do we need to?
I had to have, when you signed it, I had to scan it to her, so she's having to print that. She couldn't import it into the big packet, so I think she's printing them separately.
Gotcha.
That's the policy that governs the department's use of them. This is the original, so.
So how long is the training, do you guys know?
The training itself for the program or for the
For
grant
the,
period?
for the grant.
Well,
For the actual like pilots.
Well, that I don't know. So I know that there is, what we've seen the model for other departments do is they'll use a third party to facilitate the actual training. There's a number of places that do the training because it's kind of like a driver's test and going to driver's ed. So you have to get the training before you just sit for the test and know what to do. So the way that the grant is constructed is training is one of the eligible kind of ancillary items that we can include as part of the grant for the pilots that would be operating the drone, and we can incorporate that into the grant, so that shouldn't be something that would otherwise facilitate, or otherwise impact the budget. It would be part of the grant. I don't know the particulars on the class, because there's a bunch of them out there. It would kind of be dependent on what the department chooses as that, but it's meant solely to prepare them to obtain the FAA 107 license, which is required.
Extremely complex and difficult to attain. And then they have to have so many flight hours after attaining that to remain proficient and be able to use the drone.
Correct. There's 24 hours of annual recurrent training in addition to that, which we've incorporated by policy as far as their hands-on training, similar to a pilot, in all honesty. It is very similar.
I have a question. How many drones would you be getting? One?
This would be just getting one, correct?
Okay, and that would include the training and so forth.
Correct.
I could imagine that it would be helpful in looking at areas that are not accessible by the ground. For example,
The trail.
Rochester Park, the trails, all of that stuff you could look at and see what's going on. Because we heard that there was some homeless encampment in the.
We went back there. Myself and Sergeant Walls went back there.
Okay.
It's secure, it's safe. I mean, it's not passable, on foot or with a vehicle. You can come off the Ted Jones Trail and get to a certain point, and then you can go off the street and get to a certain point. But we were able to traverse it. There's just,
Unless you ready to climb.
if you gotta be ready to climb. Have
To
on-
get through there, yeah.
Exactly. But no, there's signs, like anywhere else that's fairly uninhabited, that there is or has been at some points in time, squatters or people back there. There's a lot of trash, a lot of debris, things like that. But no recent signs that anyone's been there recently. Everything there is pretty, dilapidated and old, so.
Yeah. Does the grant include like software updates, or would we?
Yes, so the grant is written for an amount. It's sort of dependent on us how we structure that grant is for the application. Typically, I try and maximize the amount of the grant, so if there's a ceiling of $7,500, I'm applying for $74,99.99. And a lot of times we can work with the vendors. We don't have a specific sole source provider in mind for this one. Although we have to use, since this is a FEMA sub-award grant, we do have to comply with federal standards, and that the drone has to be American-made, and there's only certain
Contractors that you can
yeah,
use.
vendors that we can use for that. So when we do our proposal for the grant, it's gonna include a couple bids from a couple places, but we're gonna try and maximize that amount. So it might not be all expenses just for the drone itself. A lot of it would be for parts and maintenance, for training and warranties, extension and things like that.
Oh,
Is
so
this a
maintenance and
one-time
everything is in
grant?
there.
Yeah, it's a one-time grant, so the grant has a project period of 8 months, which means that we have to, the grant period opens, I believe in October of this year, and we have 8 months in which to complete the program. Now, similar to the grant that we had obtained from the Department of Public Security last year for the dashboard cameras and body camera, that grant period covers, again, only 8 months. It's another state grant, but the way that we structured it, we front-loaded all of the expenses and executed everything on the front end, even though the grant period, even though we will benefit from that for the next 5 years.
So we signed a 5-year contract and just paid it in full at the front.
Got it.
Correct. And that's what we're intending to do with here. We're trying to get as much as we can and maximize essentially the award.
As far as the training goes, are you gonna train 2 people? Or is it gonna be like a canine officer, there's only one handler?
So it's a special assignment, the way the general order is laid out. So people would have to make application for it like they would for any other special assignment in the police department. And then I, myself, would choose the operators that would be selected to attend the training. We would, of course, department sponsor or pay for their licensing, their training, and get them up and running. And those would be, if you look in the packet, we have, like, we've already got some people, like Captain Beekman's going to be the supervisor, Sergeant Walls is going to be the assistant supervisor, and then, everyone there can technically be a crew member or visual observer. You don't have to go through training to be a visual observer. When you guys read the policy, you'll see the different roles and duties and responsibilities, but once we hit the maximum drone operator, so we try to keep 2 people in every discipline in the police department. So 2 taser instructors, 2 firearms instructors, 2 rifle instructors, and the reason being is because if one person leaves, we can't not have those places instructed.
Is that one person per shift or 2 people on the?
Just 2 people in the whole department,
Oh, just-
period.
okay.
Just 2 people, period, in the department. Like, Major Larson and Sergeant Walls are our taser instructors. Sergeant Gary and Robinson
Robinson.
are our pistol instructors. So we have two people in every discipline. If there's something that has a discipline, we have two people that do it. So if one person is sick, if one person is gone, if one person loses counsel, we still have a person that can handle that discipline, and we don't staff that position again until it comes open. I told Major Larson I'm not opposed to allowing people to obtain their drone operator's license. If they want to pay for the training and they wanna go through it, great. I'm just not going to maintain their licenses or pay for their licenses. It shows the people that are committed to it. We have a lot of people here that volunteer and they pay for themselves to go to out-of-pocket training because they're really interested in that discipline. So anybody beyond the maximum threshold, it will be open to them to do. We would not bar them, but we will have 2 department operators for the drone. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's worth adding to that too, that we have a number of people who've expressed interest in a program like this. And part of the general order that was prepared stipulates that it, by doing this, because it's something they really want to do, they're opening themselves up to an on-call schedule, which means they're available for call-out. So even if one of them isn't available, although we try and stagger that between shifts to maximize, you know, the availability of something like this, we can still, you know, efficiently maintain this program because they would be on call. So if we have, let's say, a barricaded subject, and we could, instead of having to go in with a SWAT team and subjecting, you know, officers to the danger of sometimes having to go in themselves, a drone could do that, right? It
We
could
used to
fly.
drone on the armed barricaded subject that was up at Bermuda and 70, right there across from the
Who was
nursing home.
flying in St. Louis County?
No, we actually used the North County Police Cooperative for that one.
Okay.
And then, maybe about a month ago, Major Larson and myself were working the road overnight. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, a vehicle wrecked at Woodstock and Florissant. And 1050 into a light pole, flipped upside down, and 3 or 4 people
Yeah.
jumped out of the car and
It was
took
a
off
stolen
running.
vehicle.
And KPLR pulled up and said, I got a drone, do you wanna use our drone? And we were like, yeah. They're in the creek. So we've used drones a couple of times, we just haven't had our own, and we think it would be beneficial for us to have our own resources.
Yeah, it really acts, it's a great force multiplier because we can draw back and not necessarily put, you know, officers in harm's
Danger.
way. Yeah, we have the ability then to get an aerial view, and with technology being what it is, a lot of these drones come with what we call FLIR, which is, you know, a thermal vision, so it's easy to pick things out overnight. So
Heat signatures.
Yeah, heat signatures, and it's really neat technology. I think it would benefit the city and the agency to take advantage of those and increase our efficiency.
So how much is the drone?
They vary in cost,
Sure. Ballpark,
anywhere from
Five,
4,000
yeah,
to
about
$6,000.
okay.
And if we're maximizing the grant and sending people to a $179 training course, that's why we limited it or capped it at 2 people. So about $500 in training related expenses, licensing expenses, but then we still have to keep a maintenance budget for it because we don't wanna throw this into our existing budget, which is already very tight.
Is there?
Yeah, and a pretty good one, a good one is about 5,000.
Yeah, I mean, there's commercial ones that are available,
Yeah.
like for fighting forest fires that have payload capacities that can
Mm-hmm.
carry up to 50 pounds. I mean, you know, military grade ones, I know, they can get up into the tens of thousands.
The
Yeah.
co-ops was $10,000, but we're not looking for
Yeah.
something like that. We're looking for something to put ourselves in the sky like everybody
you
else,
know.
so we don't have to use other people's resources.
Do you guys have like proposed, like, monies, line item for,
Well,
do you have
typically-
to submit now? or do you
typically-
just-
That's a
Well-
part of the grant application process. This is the process that we need before we can even engage in the grant application process.
And then after that, you talk about.
We go into the money and we go into how we line item and.
So this is just us saying that, yes, we have
We
a
can get a
policy
drone.
and we can get a drone?
Yes, if you,
Yeah, you
yes,
support the
guys, go get a
resolution,
drone.
you'll, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Is there any special insurance that you need for the unit itself, for the drone itself?
The only insurance that we would need is similar to like an automobile. We would add there would be a line item on our coverage with MoPerm or hopefully Traveler soon. Where we would add it as an equipment that if there was a total loss or damage to it, of course, we would want to insure it. But outside of that, no, there's no liability insurance or anything like that that we need because it's no different than the body worn cameras or any other surveillance technology that we have, and that's why we've established a governed policy to govern the use of it to avoid liability.
Yeah, because sometimes if you're in a situation, I mean, somebody could shoot the drone. And you-
Or the officers could just drop it. We got a provision in there, we just added for damage, so I mean, there's the likelihood that it could, like anything else, it could get damaged, so yes. But there will be warranties initially at the outset that come with the drone. So we're gonna exhaust all of the warranties that come with the drone, obviously, first. But if for some reason, you know, it loses power and falls in the middle of the street and gets run over by a car, the good thing is it was all paid for with grant money, so.
Oh, well, that very seldom happen, because when it's an autopilot
Or
almost,
it'll
some
recall.
more
They do have
expensive ones,
autonomous
yeah.
features.
When it gets low, they automatically stop, come back to base and land.
Yeah, they really are advanced technology. Like, they're autonomous and they have their own GPS, so if you lose connection, a good number of them will automatically return to the launch site. So there are some safety features built into that.
And you guys will see all of that if you guys will read the model policy. It's very all-encompassing and restrictive, so.
Cause I can
Actually,
fly, I have one and I can fly mine at least a mile in the air and see the pimp on top of Karen's head.
Yeah, my son took, I have a lot of footage that my
They're
son
nice.
took, cause he's a photographer and he uses one for his work. But, yeah, you can drill down and see some real fine detail.
That's one.
We're gonna use them for all types of stuff, not just criminal stuff. We're gonna,
I
of course,
forgot
bring them
what
to
model
events.
this is. This
It'd be
is
great to
the
have
one
one,
like-
you know, for the jazz festival and take some aerial shots of different things.
Only like-
I don't know if you go to our Facebook, there's, some pictures from
Flight
like
drone.
Greendale's National Night Out that were obviously taken from a drone. So,
And I'm
I've
quite
got
sure
some
you guys
Fourth of
probably
July
go.
stuff from the country club with
Yeah.
fireworks.
To your question about insurance, I do think it is actually a separate line item on insurance for unmanned, but it's not going to be like crazy
I know what
expensive.
you guys are looking
It's just
for.
like an additional coverage.
yeah, on a new
Well,
one.
if they'll
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Then it come with 4K too.
Yeah, the cameras on them are great.
Oh, great, man. I tell you.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
And next is resolution 24-41, a resolution for the city of Normandy, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into a sale agreement of the property 7733 Grand Ave. I hope this is the last one. Is that the one all the way in the back? This is the one that we sold.
So this would be the third time that we're trying to sell it,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
The first time,
Third time
just to
for
remind
charm.
everyone, the first time there was a title issue that delayed closing, and so the person backed out. The title issue has been cleared up. The second time, they just backed out, and we're gonna get the earnest money on that one. And I don't think that one would've worked out anyways. But we do have another offer, and it goes down every time. Now we're at, what are we at? $7,500.
Oh, okay.
But again, I mean, we're trying to get rid of it, we're not trying to make a buck on it.
Is this the house over on Brigham?
Yes.
One all the way in the back.
Way in the back.
Did they say, Sam, what their intent is with it
All right.
by chance?
I assume to rehab it, I mean, but no, we don't know too much beyond that. The guy's name is Mike Youngblood. And-
I'm sorry, you said Youngblood?
Yeah, yes,
All right.
I believe that's his legal name.
Do we have here a vacant house registry?
Yes.
All right, can I get a motion to approve resolution 24-41?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Last new business, resolution number 24-42, a resolution of the city of Normandy authorizing the city administrator to execute a quitclaim deed for a vacant lot commonly known as 5522 in Chelsea to an adjacent property owner.
So this one, we just sold 5518 Win Chelsea, and the person that we sold it to, he's interested in buying the lot next to it. He was actually up here grabbing a permit application today for 5522, or sorry, for 5518, and we were talking, and he said that he's interested in putting a duplex on 5518, which that would require rezoning, but,
A duplex?
Two-family?
yeah, so I don't know, I told him that would require rezoning, but he is interested in potentially doing, like actually building something on the property, I guess is my point. It's $100, it's one less thing we have to know. If he doesn't do anything with it and abandons it, then we'll be right back where we started.
Because, that was my question, so if he abandoned it, so will we get it back, or what happens?
Eventually, we could get it back through post-third, but I mean, right now, we're just
10-year process.
mowing it.
So right now he has 5518,
Yes.
is it a house on there already?
There is a house, and
Needs work.
That house.
Is that brand 55?
Winchelsea.
Winchelsea.
It's down towards the end, yeah.
yeah, and he's pulling some permits to start work, so, yeah,
So he has to maintain the grass.
yes.
That's what it looks like now.
I think I knew what it looked like, that house a mess. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Yeah, wow.
Oh, so you must have recent pictures in.
This is not a recent picture. Whoa.
So what is he gonna do?
That's the one, it's already been cleaned up.
Hope
Yeah,
so.
he was up getting a dumpster permit today, so, yeah.
It's already been cleaned.
So what is he gonna do with the home? Said build a two-story?
The vacant lot or the home?
The vacant lot.
Winchelsea, 5518.
5518, I mean, he's rehabbing
Taking
it,
the roof out.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought,
But
yeah.
he wants the lot.
but the lot next to it, he
Oh,
wants
that
to,
lot next to it, okay, I
Yeah,
heard
that's-
5518.
that's what he's offering to buy for $100, so.
He
we
wants a
can-
duplex on the lot though, right?
Yeah, but we're in no way agreeing to that, and
Oh, hell yeah.
at this point, and I told him that you would need a rezone for that.
Yeah, there's not enough land.
So, he understands and he's still interested. So, he-
Well, just let Simone
No big room.
put it back on the tax rolls.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, since you said that,
Motion, to
Say what,
approve,
Karen?
I'll approve it.
Yeah. put it
resolution
back-
24
Put it back on the
42.
tax roll, right, Sam?
yeah,
Yeah?
Got a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Old business. How the donuts are made. Council Bill number 24-16. An ordinance of the City of Normandy adopting the fiscal year ending September 30, 2025, operating and capital budget. I think we've gone through, we went through the general fund, didn't we?
yeah, so, in your packet tonight,
Okay.
you've got your operating budget, which has not been changed, at least, I don't think it's been changed at all since the last, this draft is no different than the previous meeting. However, I have included some worksheets for you, so there's a worksheet just kind of showing like a staffing chart for the city of Normandy, showing how many positions we have, how many positions are vacant, and then how many positions we have budgeted in the fiscal year 2025 budget. And then after that, there are worksheets for the administration department, public works department, and police department. And these are substantially the same from the July workshop as well. But because it's a workshop, I wanted to make sure that we had some extra detail.
You got it.
Keep going, keep going.
Yes, right here, the budget, this is the budget.
Right, keep it, go back.
Yeah,
On this one?
Now keep going, keep going.
It's further back.
Is that? Yeah, I see.
Okay.
I think you got it.
so again, and just kind of give an update on where we are on the budget. So travelers, we're hoping that they will write us an insurance policy and give us a competitive offer to MOPR. I could potentially save on some, potentially significantly, but hopefully at least a little bit on insurance premiums. So they did a loss control visit. We've gotten some encouraging emails from the risk assessment guy that came out. And from what I'm told, he basically makes the decisions on who gets a policy written, who doesn't. We still, don't- if they do write us a policy though, there's no guarantee that it's gonna be, how much it's gonna be. It could still be very high. But kudos to the police department because he was very impressed with the police department and their policies and procedures that they've maintained, and that they've maintained their accreditation. So theoretically, travelers could come back next week and give us a quote, and then the budget could change pretty drastically, hopefully for the better. If they don't, or it's not competitive, then this would be our quote, sticking with MoPerm. So, are there any, I know we didn't get a chance to go into too many questions on the operating budget. We still have the capital improvement budget, which I'd like to touch on a few things. But are there any questions about the operating budget that we weren't able to get last time, or anything you'd like me to recap?
I got a question. What is about the vacancy, I guess, in the city? The staffing.
Yeah.
So Public Works, so right now, what are we missing? Are we missing a person? Or is it a part-time person we're missing?
Yeah, so,
Karen.
so this would be after, this would be the page
It
after,
looks like this.
That's not a number?
no, the capital improvement plan is now numbered, but this would be the first budget worksheet. So after you get past the draft section,
Okay.
it's the first page after that.
I thought there was 2 laborers.
I thought
So-
too.
So yes, we had, in fiscal year 2024, we had 2 laborers. However, so one quit, but with the fiscal year 2025 budget, looking how it is, we're talking about just replacing him with a part-time person in fiscal year 2025. So right now, it's vacant, but it's only a half-time position in the proposed budget. In this year's budget, it would have been a full-time person.
Can I ask Dennis?
Yeah.
So how are you guys working with the staff that you have now? Are you able to maintain everything, or?
We're doing okay, more people could always help, but
Right.
if there's no money to ask for another person, I can't ask for a person, so.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just thinking futuristic, because wintertime is gonna happen, and I'm sure we're gonna need you guys more than just those 2 people, which is a supervisor and a laborer,
It'll
right?
just be us, it won't be anybody else.
Just the 3 people?
Let me ask this question. I'm looking at the organizational chart for that. Why do we have Public Works Director and a supervisor position for 1 laborer? I mean,
Okay,
that's
well,
kinda
I mean,
stacked.
Yeah, and, the title supervisor, I understand why you would say that, but the laborer is a $17 an hour position, and a lot of times,
They come and go.
they come and go.
Right.
And the supervisor, I think the starting pay rate for that position is like $23 an hour, so it's still not, it's one of the, on the lower half of the pay scale in the city. And, I think it's extremely valuable to have someone in a position that stays there and has rank over the other guy.
Yeah, gotcha.
So,
He has a lot of experience, he's retired.
and he does have a lot of experience. So, and we could not fit him into just the public works laborer scale. But to kind of frame the issue about how staffing is, the way I see it, and Dennis, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Right now with what we have, and the crew that we have, they're doing a really good job with what they have, and they're keeping up, but maybe we're missing things, or a few of the details. Getting into some of the landscaped pieces and weeding them regularly, as opposed to, only getting them to as they can, right? And so there are things that we're looking at. How can we improve that without, bringing on another person? We have talked about and are working on getting some quotes about potentially like contracting out specific spots. Like, let's say we just contracted out the mowing at Holzell Park. We could pay that out of the Parks and Stormwater Fund, so it doesn't impact our general fund budget as like it would if we just hired somebody to do it. And the crew could still they would still do stuff at Holzell Park, but it would free up time to take care of the vacant lots, the other parks, and Natural Bridge, as well as all our other facilities, so.
So would the pocket parks be included?
No,
If
we're,
you contract it out or?
I mean,
just something?
we could get a contract for anything, but right now what we're looking at specifically is just a
bigger
a contract to cut Holzell, which we did in 2022. We had a contractor, and I know it, well, you probably know better than anybody if it worked out
Yeah,
super well.
worked out, they did pretty good.
Yeah,
But Dennis and his crew do pretty good, but I know it takes a lot of time to do it.
right.
We have that little park in our area that's kind of getting a little wild looking, that needs some attention. And the fence lines between Henderson Road and the Country Club that are only the ones that are by the park, by the spaces that are clearly our public property, but on the, because there's weeds.
Yeah.
And we've got that one problem house in the corner on St. Andrews, but we've always maintained that fence line. The village has, and so, and the same thing on the park area, because part of that is to make sure that we look as good inside the village as we do to those people on the country club side. But where we couldn't have a lot of success in having the country club do anything about their responsibilities for their side of the fence, because that fence does belong to them. They own that fence. They need to do some work along Lucas and Hunt. All of that stuff that's over on this, coming over their wall, over particularly south of their entrance, the entrance on Lucas and Hunt to the country club. It's a lot of junk. And our fence lines, we need to have some conversations with them about that too.
Yeah, that's something we can look into. But yeah, I think that all just kind of plays into kind of my point earlier.
Right.
We're the crew, even though it's small, way smaller than it's been in years past, they're doing a really good job keeping up on the basics, but sometimes the details are hard to keep up with.
Right.
So, and then as far as the winter time, I'm particularly not worried. I'm not very worried about just having, you three down there. I mean, that's enough to run the trucks when it snows, and they're
Someone gets sick.
sure. But you get much more than that. There's going to be some twiddling
Well,
thumbs.
there's not enough equipment to, in, the wintertime, if there's a snow event, there's only so much you can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have more than 3 people working, but if it's a snow event that lasts 24, 36 hours or something like that, that could cause some problems, but then we're also remembering that we do our city streets, the county does the main stuff, the state does this, county and state, so we're just clearing our streets, we're not doing all the big stuff, so.
Yep.
Yeah, a big snow event will be, it will stress us, but, we'll be able to do it.
That includes when you can, and I understand that the limitations of our crazy snow here in St. Louis, where if it starts to rain, you can't really preach it, treat.
Pre-treating is pretty hard to do, but if you know it's gonna rain, it's a waste of
Right,
time and.
but those are the worst ice events as well, when they have.
And I don't have the capability of putting down beet juice or anything like
Right.
that, I don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah, no, that was brought up last time, but if it's that bad, you shouldn't be driving. Like even MoDOT says, do not drive.
Last winter was
It
particularly
was very,
weird.
very bad. And like,
Yeah.
there were like 2 days where there was no school because of the ice. But nobody should be on the road. You shouldn't be going to the grocery store in the ice store.
They said we wanna do is make sure the PD can get out of the police
Right, that's,
department.
yeah. And that the emergency vehicles can get through.
That's frozen.
Yeah, we don't know.
It's been frozen
Kiana
for
was
a
saying,
minute.
I don't know. I think it's this camera. but
Yes.
Yeah, only one of the cameras appears to be frozen. If you look at the bottom,
Councilman Shivers, can you hear us?
yeah, if you look at the bottom
Phone
left,
call.
that one's moving.
is that her?
Yeah.
She's muted,
Okay. That's one way to test if it's working, but
Is she on?
Okay, go back, I'm sorry.
no.
Is that her?
But Sam's explanation of the details is, that's the part that is missing, he's exactly right. He and I actually talked about that yesterday.
As long as you guys can handle it, I'm cool. I'm
Yeah,
just
it's,
looking
the two guys and myself, you know, I'm out there about 3 days a week
I see,
working,
I see.
working. And then the other two, I'm trying to do paperwork and stuff, so.
Yeah, and then, you know, to just kind of go back to the budget in general, I mean, we've slashed really more than we would ever want to. It's, the operations, for everybody is budgeted to go down from what we spent this year, and we were particularly skinny this year as well. And salaries are more or less stagnant. You know, enough to do the merit increases, but no cost of living adjustment, which is, you know, pretty brutal for employees. But again, that's just kind of where the budget is. I will say, so right now, this draft of the budget has a budgeted deficit of $146,000. $70,000 of that is actually spending Glen Echo's money that's currently in our reserve on the street resurfacing project. So, you know, even if we had a more balanced budget, we'd still have a $70,000 deficit because we're spending the money that's sitting in our reserve that we said we're gonna spend for a capital expenditure. So if you take into account that, we're about $76,000 in the red just on operational expenses. Unless there's any questions about that, and they all kind of blend together, so if you have a question, we can definitely jump back. I wanted to kind of move on to the capital improvement plan. So this is page numbered, so if you go past, it's also says draft on it, it's 26 pages.
Okay.
And I actually think some pages got printed twice, so if you see pages that look like the capital improvement plan but don't say draft on them, just ignore those. Or if they're not page numbered, just ignore those. So, there were a few revisions, mostly good news, if you ask me, with the capital improvement plan. We did get an estimate back on our leaf vacuum, and it looks like we can get away with some, I would consider it, you know, significant maintenance, but we're not gonna have to buy a new leaf vacuum this year, and we can make it a few years. Do you wanna have any updates on that, Dennis, as far as what you told me?
I approved them today, I gave them the verbal, it's about $6,500 to make it where they feel that it's going to last us for a while. The engine is good, all the compressions are good and everything in the engine, that was the biggest thing I was worried about. The other stuff, the stuff we're getting fixed is the hydraulics, which gave us the fits last fall, is why we had so much trouble, because we were manually pulling it up and down rather than having the hydraulics help us. And then, that's the main things, but he felt that after we got those things done with all the money that we've spent the previous year on it, he said we should get some longevity out of it now, so. You know, something can always go wrong, but, the mechanics that have been taking care of it, the doctors say it's gonna live.
So can I ask why did we get the vacuum? The leaf vacuum, if we're not gonna do it, so what is it good for?
That's the leaves, that's all the leaves.
But we're not doing
We still do leaves.
We still do the leaf vac.
for,
It's the limbs that we don't do.
I thought we stopped that.
No. So
We
Waste
discussed- we
Management will pick
discussed
up
it a
your
little bit.
leaves. Waste Management will pick up your leaves.
In the bag, but, so we could, so when, I thought we stopped the leaf factory.
It was the lamb chip.
Are they gonna have like a monthly run when this comes back?
My thought is the whole month of November, we're just gonna be running the leaf vac and maybe part of December. It just kinda depends on when the leaves come down.
Right.
Oh,
I wasn't, last year didn't, I tried to schedule it, you know, a week here, a week there, you know, in different parts. But then with breakdowns and stuff, people are expecting you to pick up stuff, and if you don't pick them up, then you get all the phone calls. So if I end up and do something the month of, you know, maybe the week before Thanksgiving through,
Christmas.
yeah, because there's more, a lot of, after that, the last heavy, the first heavy freeze is when a lot of them fall, and then the oak trees take forever for their leaves.
Oh,
You know, you can have oak trees, leaves not fall until February.
it's right in front of my house, I do know.
So that did free up some funds. So again, just a brief recap, because I know we haven't had a capital improvement plan in years past. There's this main page on page 1 that just kind of shows you the different projects that we're considering, with some just brief information. New to this draft is a page number for reference that you can go and see more about the project. Pages 2 and 3 are basically projected fund balances. So particularly the capital improvement fund, which is on the bottom half of page 2, is a very important one to pay attention to, because the ending fund balance from year to year is kind of something to look at, because like at 2029, at the end of 2029, with all the projects that we have planned and all the, grants to offset and things coming out of different funds, we're planning to have about $159,000 in the capital improvement fund at the end of 2029. So theoretically, that means that we have $159,000 in capital improvement funds that we can still spend within the 2029, or maybe we want to save up so we can identify future projects that we may not identify right now. We could very easily throw that $160,000 into a street resurfacing project, very easily. But removing the leaf vac helped with that. A few other items that I just want to draw attention to. We've got the natural bridge improvements. So a few of these are really kind of maintenance items, but they've been deferred so long that they're now quite large purchases. So if you go to page 5, you can kind of see a summary of what that entails. I know what we've talked about a few times, the medians. So there's the quote, or the estimated cost for that to replace the grassy sections with stamped concrete in the center. It seemed like when the MoDOT, we're not talking about touching anything on near the sidewalks, just in the center of the road. We don't have to do every single median or any of them. We could even, there's different things we could do. We could even just take down the concrete footing if we want to.
You mean those old molding would come away?
Yeah,
Well, what will keep the mound of dirt up in the middle?
well, we would take it down to ground level.
And pulling out all the irrigation that's in there.
The irrigation is completely shot.
Just to help you on the irrigation, whoever put that irrigation in, put it on top of the ground. It's not a buried irrigation, and I would venture to say 70% of the piping is ruined.
Oh, there's copper piping underneath it all.
There's not copper piping,
What do they have, galvanized stuff?
no,
Yeah.
it's
It's
plastic.
plastic, it's all.
It's plastic.
We had somebody come and
There's
look at
nothing
it
that,
when.
it was never buried, it was laid,
Because it's a drip
Yeah.
system.
it was just like this, on top of the ground.
Yeah.
And it was not taken care of, it was mowed over, people mowed over it before I
Some
came
of them have
here
been cut.
and broke it.
You can see from it.
You would have to put a whole
You-
new irrigation.
You
So-
weren't here when we had the flowers put in, right? But when we had the flowers put in, Missouri Department of Conservation, when they fixed the ones at the circle, they came in like and looked at tried to find the sources, and we found the one for the circle, which they repaired. The other ones, basically, they were like the trash.
Let me ask this question. What's the source of the water for those things? Where does it come from?
What is it?
There's backflow over by the fountain.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
some-
assuming
the
that's
trophy
where-
place?
To your point,
Yeah,
there's
it's
stuff
under the
that's under the street.
Yeah, because that was a
Right.
$20 million project. I mean, all of that stuff.
Right.
It was a lot of money. And,
It wasn't maintained.
well, no, obviously it wasn't maintained, but in 4 or 5 years, it's gone from looking good to looking like crap. And that, to me, is kind of a waste of all of that money and all of the work that people put in the years of planning to get that money. So,
Well, they should have planned on how to take care of it.
Well,
they did.
the maintenance
that's the,
part,
that's the,
that was not something that Rodney had the watering truck and came and watered all the flowers when they turned the flowers over, which is also very expensive. So even when Rodney was alive, the irrigation system was not being used.
Correct.
Because he was watering, physically
Yeah.
watering them with, so
And
it wasn't working then. And then to have those flowers planted, which was not part of, which did not have council approval, and the amount of money that they used to like plant the flowers, and then we're gonna plant tulips, and then we're gonna plant begonias or whatever it was, and then to turn them over, that's a lot, and that was maintained by
The city, it was bluegrass.
Bluegrass.
Yeah, I know.
So that maintenance cost was not put into our budget, which is why I wrote the grant for the flowers at the circle. Then we have the plants back here, but maintaining that is not something that's like within our budget, and they did not prepare for that. It was not prepared for, which was why, like you said, they put a lot of effort into it and it looked pretty, but nobody thought about going forward, like what would happen if we're not sitting in these seats, and it can't, that started to go down as soon as Rodney was gone.
the Economic Development Fund was supposed to pay for that.
Well, and it spends we do spend about $40,000 a year just keeping the lights on and running the fountain. And we'll look at alternatives, but the tree grates, we just got a quote back for that. They're quite ornate to get them from the original manufacturer. What was the number, $20,000?
$1,000 to replace 15 grates.
Yeah, and we'll look at maybe grates that aren't as ornate, we'll see what we can do, but that's in here as well, to get those grates replaced. We've got a lot, and a lot of it is deferred maintenance, but after the utility cost, with what our half-cent economic development sales tax generates, it's only about $40,000. And so, and each time a light pole gets hit, that's, what, 10K? And we can submit that to insurance, and if they have insurance, that will.
Which we talked
not
about that
matter.
before when we had the.
But,
Yeah, we have the things that were happening, because some of those.
but
people
right
that
now,
were
I
coming
don't
out-
want things to hit our loss run.
Yeah,
where we're at,
they
so.
didn't have insurance, and we tried to go through the whole prosecuting and everything. If somebody doesn't have insurance and they can't pay for it, or they steal the car and then they hit the thing and then run away.
Well, we had to pay $6,000 or $8,000 to have two posts repaired when somebody hit our fence outside of Glen Echo. And so, yeah, I know that stuff takes a lot of money to do, but my point is this, that we don't wanna look, I mean, I was on Kings Highway the other day, and they used to have those things, and now there's concrete and it looks like shit. And so we cannot allow our city to go ahead and look so bad. I think that we might wanna look at other ways of maintaining or fixing or it would be a shame just to put concrete on all of
Yeah.
those places.
And it's a matter of preference and opinion. I don't think it's gonna look like crap. I think, there are several areas, some of which are quite nice, that implement stamped concrete in the way that we're looking to do it, right? We're not just
I haven't seen the plans, so I'd like to see those.
I think,
Well,
Yeah.
they're still prepping, and we don't, and what they're prepping, we don't have to take, like, if we still want this grass, like the ones in front of the USDA, if we wanna keep those grass, those aren't really costing us that much right now. We can keep those grass and save the money from pouring the concrete. But particularly where the raised concrete or cast stone footings, those, from a maintenance perspective, those need to get brought down to ground level.
Please.
and the other thing is too, if
They're broken.
getting, like you said, I think they planned, the previous council and mayors plan for something that was very ornate. However, when you talk about maintaining something, you don't get it from Chicago.
Patrick Green.
And you don't get it from Chicago and then bring it in, because then if you're not using like your local services, the shipping cost alone for concrete is astronomical.
Yeah, some should have told you go local.
Yeah, so if you don't go
Well, that-
local with those kinds of things, and MoDOT was involved, and it took a long time for us to get that fixed, and people are beating it up. It just kinda, it's like, what are you gonna do about it? And in my opinion, it looks more detrimental to the circle to have one piece of concrete that's all jacked up, and then you got two like, that look like this, than just making it,
Have them all taken
making
down.
it
For
look
safety
neat,
purposes.
neat and clean. And if we just make the circle look neat and clean, which is the center, I don't think that having concrete in those places makes it look bad or anything. We still have grass, we still have parks, we still have those things. We're talking about a very small square footage area.
Oh, I know, I mean, I know that.
Keeping it clean to me is more.
I think that's the most important thing, to make it look neat and clean. And there are places, like they just did one at WashU, at Skinker and Forest Park Parkway. They put up raised, they put in a pedestrian parkway, and it looks really nice. It is all concrete, there is no grass, but it's also safe. It's safe and it looks good. They've done it in Wellston, where they have, when you go down St. Charles Rock Road, they have lights and there's concrete that separates both parts of it. It's clean and it's safe and it looks nice. And I think that with this plan, we can have something that's clean and safe and looks nice, and we still also have the sidewalks that are wide, and we do have a lot of grass on us because they're wider than a normal,
And we got big trees.
and we have a tree line and everything. So I don't think we're losing anything by
And
just,
just FYI, we just requested from the police department's perspective to bring all the curbs down to regular grade level. When they're raised like that, it causes vehicles to become lodged on them at high rates of speed and a lot of overturning. We've had overturned vehicles on all those raised casters. We prefer they just be lower. Yeah, you might tear out the undercarriage.
Well, the other thing that people are gonna drive over them, because that's what they do.
They might
I've
tear out
seen-
the undercarriage of their car, but we'll get less rollovers, because we've had a lot of you wouldn't think a car could roll on Natural Bridge, but those embankments facilitate that with the speeds,
You
where
can
they're not just
Well,
hitting them.
You can always put crossover
To-
wires too.
To,
where they
to,
can't cross.
to bring it back to the budget, I mean, we could probably spend the same dollar amount restoring it to the exact plans. It's just, where are we gonna be in 5 years from now? Are we gonna be right back? Or are we gonna use the same amount of money to change it to something that we don't have to put so much maintenance in? So that is one, that's gonna be funded out of the Economic Development Fund, which is pretty flush with money because of the dissolution of the TIF. Right now, I don't have anything in the plan, but we may look at using some of the rest of that fund balance to update some of, like, our land use plans and comprehensive plans. That's something else we need to do. But just to keep moving through, we do have a City Hall message board, which we're still refining the dollar amount on. You can spend a lot of money on a message board. You can also get one that's quite small and quite cheap.
do you
is
have
what
a,
we
do you
found
have
out.
a mock-up of, not a mock-up, but what does this one look like? I guess I'm asking.
Sam really didn't like it, so.
Yeah, I told him to go back with more.
Oh, okay.
So we're still working on that. We could spend more than $32,000 and get.
You can spend pretty much what you want on one, it's just how elaborate you want it, where you want it at. that's a big piece of it, because until they mock one up, you know, do we want it, like right out there where the Normandy sign is now? Do we want, you know, where do we want it turned? How big do we want it? Because that's,
Little tiny ones, and I know that there's all kinds of.
yeah, and if, you know, once I have a dollar amount, I can tell the guy, okay, this is no more than this, what can you do for us?
Yeah,
Okay, so my general idea about all of this right now, when we're looking at the kind of deficits that we're looking at, and we're in a hole. And I think that the next probably 3 years, 3 to 5, our main objective ought to be to keep us from going out of business, to keep us from being in the hole. We can't, how are we gonna pass a budget with a hundred and, what did we say, $146,000 deficit? That's gonna be making it difficult for us to do anything else. So I'm saying that in fiscal '25, maybe we hold off on some of these big things.
sure, if I may. So everything on here, with the exception of the Glen Echo resurfacing project, because those are using the funds in reserve, is not being funded out of the general fund. It's either all coming out of the capital improvement
Right.
fund and Parks and Stormwater fund.
And I thought there was 74,000 in that fund for Glen Echo, not 72.
There were some, like the trash bill came in, and so it may be even a little more than 72, but for the CIP, I use round numbers, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
We have, I mean, Sam and I have talked about this before, so it's not really a surprise here. But we have 2 houses that are very, very dangerous, that probably need to come down. I have gotten informal estimates about the tear downs on those 2 properties, and we're looking at about $32,000 to bring them both down and do a clean tear down of those 2 houses. Where are we with CDBG funds for, like, next year?
None have been released. I think last time I checked in was about a month ago. And it was the same answer I've gotten for about the past 8 months, which is, Housing and Urban Development at the federal level does not release the CDBG funds. So we are.
Because they allowed, I mean, what we got just before we merged was that letter from the county saying that we had $60,000 coming.
Right.
But I guess we can't get that money.
I mean, hopefully we will get it eventually. It's just kind of, and as far as the Normandy money, not even getting into the Glen Echo money, because I still haven't gotten, because I believe those were 2025 funds.
2025, 26.
So those would be things that we would be applying for
Right,
in the September. So I will reach out about those,
because if we can
because
put,
that application's next month theoretically.
Right.
If they're gonna let us apply for it.
if they're gonna let us, I would like to see those two properties gone. I think it would go a long
Okay.
way in just kind of eliminating some of the risk that we have. And if we lien the properties for the amount that it costs to tear them down, then we can possibly sell those lots. Now, I don't know if we can do that with CDBG money, but what I'm proposing is and you said it before, maybe we take the money from that $74,000, tear the houses down, and then, but see, that's different kind of money, because we can't get streets done in Glen Echo with CDBG funds. We can tear down houses.
Well, and we do, so, and this kind of is maybe jumping ahead a bit, but we do plan to allocate funds consistently out of the capital improvement fund. And if our general fund can get right, out of the general fund as well, towards regular resurfacing.
Right.
Now, right now, where we're at, even in this proposed budget, is nowhere close to where really we need to be.
Got it.
We have about $4.3 million in work if we were just to resurface everything, and just about everything does need to be resurfaced.
Right.
And we're able to, throw in about like $250,000 a year.
Yeah,
So
and I don't even think that with the estimates that you got, the $74,000 that was in the Glen Echo budget would even cover doing all of our roads.
No, it would not,
But,
yeah.
you know, maybe I mean, there are some parts of our roads that are much worse than others. There's some potholes that need to be addressed, there's that kind of stuff, but I'm just looking.
Well, now's a perfect decision, or a perfect time to have that conversation. With the Glen Echo Reserve, which is roughly $72,000, does the council want to allocate that towards resurfacing of St. Andrews and potentially parts of Henderson? Or do we want to allocate that towards demolition of derelict properties in the village? Because we passed a resolution saying that we were gonna use it in the village, but,
Well, yeah.
but how, we did not nail ourselves down on.
Well, one of the things that we have to look at is the maximum input. When are you gonna get the biggest bang for the buck? And I've had some conversations with residents, of course, Mary Ann would say, tear the houses down. But I keep getting more and more concerned about those two properties in particular, because they're getting worse and worse. At first, the idea was that we could put pressure on the owners to fix them up or sell them because people were interested in restoring them. But I think they've just gone too long. And so I would not be opposed to spending the money. Can we get them down this year?
If we allocate the money in 2025, that's a fairly straightforward project. Especially if it's just our money, then it's really straightforward. It's just putting out an RFP. I will tell you, one of them is on Zillow for $50K. Did you know that? 7203? I saw that recently. I thought that was interesting.
One of them just sold, isn't it? One of them just sold, Brad?
Yeah, I heard that as well, but I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if it's the one that Vicky's talking
Was it
about.
7241?
It was one of the ones that were in
7247?
rougher
What's
shape.
the street name?
St. Andrews.
St. Andrews.
St. Andrews.
7247.
No, not 4727.
7220, okay, that property has
That's
sat vacant for years, and what happens is that there's a group of Chinese gentlemen who get together and they pass it from,
This one was sold to some conglomerate out of California.
oh, man.
But anyways, just, let's keep it on the budget question. Derelict houses are roads in Glen Echo Park, and I think you, yeah, you carry a lot of weight here, so.
Yeah, I would say derelict houses need to, they're an immediate safety issue. And then if we can go and fix all the potholes and do other stuff with the rest of that money. I actually have, somewhere in my life, somebody sent me these, they had the addresses, the address was wrong on one of them. They were talking about the same house, but they put the wrong address on it. So I didn't send those forward. Do we have to go out for 3 bids on those projects?
On the tear downs, yeah, that would be a sealed bid.
Do we have to have a resolution now?
Now, you could make a motion to direct me to do something with the CIP, and maybe that would be good. That way we're all clear about what we're doing, so.
I move that we allocate money from the existing Glen Echo money to tear down those 2 houses. Understanding that we still, the initial thing that we will have to do is get engineering studies, official ones, because those are both on the historic registry, and SHPO is gonna have to be involved.
Okay.
So we get that, we send all that documentation to the state come fiscal year 25, which is not that long. I mean, if we can get those down, I think it would make people in the village feel a lot more secure.
You started with the motion, but then you.
Yeah, you'll need to restate
need
the
to
motion
restate.
and please include the addresses as well.
Okay,
I'll tell you
I
what,
move-
you don't have to include the addresses, just say like $50,000,
I know the address.
and then we'll work out
No,
the
I
address.
want
That's fine.
50, I want to do maximum.
Then we can declare them dangerous.
I want to
Sure.
do maximum.
Do we need the number exactly, or can we say 72 to 74?
No, it's
It
there's
won't take
7203 and
72.
7225, St. Andrews.
Well, we don't need to say that, just allocate.
I would allocate,
An amount not to exceed 72,000.
well, no, yeah, but I want the rest of the money to go on the roads.
We can do that.
Okay.
We don't need a motion for that.
Not to exceed the amount in the fund, whatever that amount in the fund
Okay,
is.
I understand what you want.
Okay, so I move that the money in the Glen Echo Reserve be used first to address derelict homes, derelict properties, and then any remaining funds would be used on streets.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Alright, I will make that change, and we will start working on the RT. Okay. So again, and this is, the capital improvement is particularly where, we want the most council input. So, let's see. Another one, just to kind of, briefly, one change from the last presentation of the CIP, where there's a radar and messaging trailer. A very small one will cost about $17,000 without any upgrades. The Parks Advisory Board has requested that we get a messaging trailer so that they can advertise their events. The thing is, if you're getting a messaging trailer, you might as well get a radar trailer. And so,
Oh, never mind.
so this, the one that I got a quote for, it serves as a radar trailer, and then you can put your message on there, and the police can use it to tow around, and then, you know, like, the 3 times a year that Parks Board has it, or if Public Works needs something for traffic control, then it can double as a messaging
So
trailer.
part of this money come out of both of those, their funds? or
It would
is
just,
everything
it would
come
all
out?
come out of the capital improvement fund. We could,
So this will
we
be
could, we
a
could
third, a
fund
third, a
part of
third, a
it.
third?
We could, actually, it's not in it how it is right now, but we could fund some of it out of the Parks and Stormwater Fund, which would be a good idea. But it's not a huge purchase. Our current radar trailer works in only one location, I believe. So,
We got new batteries for it, so we can, it's just old,
yeah.
it's real old.
So that's a request that we're making. And then going back to street resurfacing, I have Norwood Manor, which is actually broken up into phases, which would be in 2025 the first phase. And once the capital improvement fund gets some more money, we would do the rest of the subdivision in 2028.
And both of these are in Ward.
So Norwood Manor is in Ward 1. Bermuda Court is on here because we did identify that on our CDBG application. And so that one would be with CDBG money. That resurfacing is $100,000. It's slotted in for 2025, but if we don't get the CDBG money, it could theoretically get pushed back. And then after Norwood Manor, I have Normandy Heights, particularly Marietta Circle Drive, has some particularly rough spots, as well as St. Anne is in that same area. St. Anne gets quite a bit of traffic and is in pretty rough condition. So that's really not a whole lot of streets when you're looking at a 5-year kind of view, but that's what we can afford right now. If there's any input on, hey, we should do this street or
Well,
this
this is
set
one
of
of the
streets instead.
conversations, yeah, this was one of the conversations that Sam and I talked about where do we actually do the resurfacing, because the other problem was that American Water.
Right. They're about
They
to come
they're
in.
gonna come in, like, if they haven't already done and like change out things, and so, did we get a list yet of where they
So
already?
what they have
and where
told
plan
us,
on going?
what they have told us is you tell us, and then when you say that you're gonna resurface something, we'll come in and, so I think they've kind of switched their approach a little bit, because we were trying to get them to tell us when they plan to do next, and kind of sounds like they're not gonna be real active.
They're not telling you.
Yeah,
And they wanna know when we're gonna be in. So that's why it's important to have the 5-year plan.
yeah, I know, we got our stuff done, they did a lot of damage, they never fixed a lot of things, and our water pressure is terrible. But, one of the things that you may be able to do is whenever they do their work, you might wanna have them target your worst streets. Cause they're gonna come back and they're gonna do half the street anyway. But then you can make a deal with whoever is doing the street resurfacing while they're already out there, they've got the material and they've got the stuff. And it comes in a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah, and I believe how this would work is we say, okay, we're gonna resurface this entire street, and then they say, okay, we wanna get in under it while you're resurfacing it, and then we develop a cost share.
Okay.
So,
So the,
Because
because
legally,
because what it sounds like, they are not, there's no active plans, despite, it sounds like it's kinda changed from 3 years ago, when they sent out a letter and a map with their plans. It sounds like it's changed, and they just wanna know when we're gonna be in. So, we get to pick, and then we'll communicate with them.
do you guys remember the list of the streets that we got, and it had like 0 point whatever to 9, was it that, the highest number, whatever, was that the lowest number?
yeah, I think it's is it a 6-point
No,
scale?
like the
or
whole
not?
list.
You talking about the street report?
Yeah.
Yeah, street report's 0 from 0 to, is it 10? Shoot.
What was the highest?
Pacer,
scale.
Pacer.
Yeah, the pager was 10.
It's 10, yeah, it's one.
The 1 7 and above we got.
And if you look on the pages, I've got the Pacer rating. Every one that's in here was in the, like, the worst. It was at the bottom of the list. Actually, Bermuda Court was the only one that wasn't at the bottom of the list, but we had already identified that, as well as, Bermuda Courts seems sound, you know, as far as the,
It looked the worst, but it wasn't the worst.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. But the drive on it isn't good in some spots. There's
Yes,
some
right.
patch repairs that we need.
Well,
just wanna
because
make-
that with chip seal was put down on top of
Yeah.
it.
I think, I just think it's
Big
important
waste
that we
of
make
money.
sure that like in wards,
They're, you know, it's in the sewer
wards 1 and
lines
2,
now.
that they're getting like this, the necessary street repairs. Like, we just need to come up with everybody just needs to be on the same page, and like, we're gonna definitely start here, yes, this is good. And not like, oh, they didn't put my street on there, and why not, you know, and everything. I just want everybody to be set with the plan.
Yeah, they selected the worst streets and numbered them. Yeah.
But sometimes visually, it wasn't, like, sometimes when you looked at it, they did not look that bad. Like, I was like, this street doesn't look that bad, but then there are some that, like, in-
Rosedale was one of the
Yeah.
high ones.
so if we're all, like, okay with the list, like, and if we're
Yeah.
gonna start here, then that's.
Well, I'll tell you, like, if you guys approve the capital improvement plan, at the September workshop here, then that's what we're gonna go with. So, basically, this is what streets we're gonna repave and which ones we're not. If you're okay with this, you know, vote yes on it. If you're not okay with it, then now's the time for input. If there's a different street that you want on.
Cause it's all based on what we paid to have done. So-
Sorry to interrupt. I received a text message from Ernestine Shivers. She's having trouble unmuting, but she wanted it on the record that she opposed the motion from earlier.
Okay.
I
Which
assume that's
one?
what she was opposing.
Which
I'm
one?
not sure, she didn't really tell me what she was opposing.
The most
She said
recent
she
motion
opposed
was
the
the
Glen
Glen
Echo.
Echo one.
The tear downs?
Yeah.
I assume so.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just needed to be on
Who
the
knows?
record, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, you need to know what she's opposing,
I did
right?
ask, I haven't received it.
She don't know.
So anyways, don't need an answer right now, but if,
So when would
If
be
you
a good
want-
time to get an answer?
well, as soon as possible. But definitely before the September workshop.
Before the September.
It's not something that can't be amended. And also the nice thing about capital improvement plan, really all we're committing to is 2025. What happens in 2028, 2029, we can change in the 2026 CIP. So,
It's a
Yeah.
guide.
yeah, but 2025 is all that we're committing to.
I have a question for Dennis. As far as Bermuda Core, would they come in and scrape all that chip seal off first before they resurface, or just resurface
They,
on top?
they have to prep it, they aren't gonna just put it on top of it, they'll get
Okay.
prepped, and they'll get milled down, how, you know, they'll decide how far to mill it down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the chip seal, like when Sam and I went around with them, the big thing is all of our streets were concrete at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's through the years, it's just been layered up, and sometimes it's chip, sometimes it was asphalt, and they did different things. That's why our streets are such.
Bad shape, yeah.
Yeah, in the street report, the engineers actually recommended whether it needed a mill or not, or how deep of a mill it needed. I think with a few exceptions, almost everyone was recommended mill down to the,
Get that top part off.
right, because, yeah. But there was a few that they said just put down more asphalt, yeah.
It's called milling.
It's not soil.
It looks good initially. It looked good when they did it, I'm sure.
It did not,
It didn't.
it did not.
We had two big projects in the village. First with Project Clear, and then with Missouri American Water, which was the latest one. All of our streets were affected, and, except for the ones around the park. And what both of those companies did is that they, they're supposed to leave it in at least the shape that they found it. So I think choosing where you're gonna have the work done, and then partnering with with a cost share for the total replacement of the roads, because what they're obligated to do is to do half of the street, and that's exactly what they did. They did half the street, gave us a deal on what we would have to pay to get the other parts done. We were not in a position to go ahead and approve that, because that would take all of our reserves, and we just didn't want to be in that position. So I think there's probably some considerable savings that are available to you if you have them start replacing those water lines on the worst streets. Again, we had to have all our water mains replaced. That's not what necessarily is going on with some other places. So I think choosing wisely where you want to have them come to your worst streets first and have them do that tear up, and then partner with them on the ones that, you can get some savings on.
Absolutely. I think that's about it, unless there's any just questions about the budget in general. There is the next item, whenever Yolanda gets back in, we're gonna talk about health insurance for employees, which does also play into the budget, because some tough decisions gotta be made or else the deficit could potentially be even worse than what it's projected to be right now. So, any other questions about the budget, where it's at? Again, we'll have a chance to talk about it at the regular meeting, and then we'll have the September workshop, which at this point, I think we're gonna look for final approval at the September workshop, so.
Wait, was that her? Oh, that was just a council vote, okay. Number 2. Resolution number 24-39, a resolution of the City of Normandy establishing employee contributions for group health insurance for fiscal year 2025.
So this is gonna be the last 2 pages of the packet. Again, I just kind of touched on it, and I touched on it at the last meeting, our group health insurance is going to increase by 10% for the month, for the premium for the year. So the first part of this section would increase the employee contributions by 10%. So ours goes up, theirs goes up as well. And then section 2, and this is kind of the more novel part of the resolution, would establish a spousal surcharge. So essentially what this would do is if an employee, and actually I'm a perfect example of this. So my wife, she works full-time, she's offered health insurance, but she's on the city's insurance right now. Particularly with ACA plans, people's spouses are, it's basically like insuring another employee, because they're not, kids are quite cheap, but, so what the spousal surcharge would do, if the spouse has insurance, but they put them on the city's insurance anyways, then there would be, they would have to pay half of the spouse's insurance premium. So for example, that could range, depending on the age of the spouse, that could range from, $600 to $1,500 per month. And so the spousal surcharge would put 50% of that premium on the employee. We would deduct it out of their check pre-tax. If the employee's spouse does not have health insurance offered through another carrier, then they would just pay the flat rate that's listed in section 1. So the idea is trying to cut costs and get people to switch their spouses off the insurance, theoretically to a comparable product, so they don't really lose much. Although, full transparency, sometimes the spouse's insurance isn't as good. So, again, this is only talking about a handful of people. Depending on who switches and who doesn't, we could save anywhere between $20,000 or $60,000 for the year. So, because it adds up quite quickly.
So the employer's spouse is $125 per pay period?
Yeah,
So I just use an example, so if your wife has health insurance offered to her, if she stays with you, she'd pay half of this $125?
no, so on top of the 120, so I believe for my wife's 27, I think her premium monthly that the city pays is about $600 a month. So on top of the 125 per pay period, we would pay an extra $300 a month.
So it does two things. First of all, it relieves the burden on the city for that little, whatever that money, and right now, any money is good money. And then the other thing is if the person has insurance available to them through their employer, it encourages them to go get that instead of ours.
Right.
The only thing that I've had a problem with this, and I've been going back and forth with, is that we already don't pay a lot. And when people stand up at the podium and they talk about the minimal services that they're getting, I don't want to see people in the office walking out the door because of health insurance. Health insurance is it's a very real cost. And if we're not gonna pay people and give them a raise, like he just said, they're not getting a significant raise already. And then we're saying now, not only are we gonna not give you this, but we're gonna also have you pay that. And then to have that happen when we're a city, and we talked about this when we did the pay scale, we're a city that's not on the high end of salaries. And we have a lot of people doing a lot of things already that more people should be engaging in, but we don't have the money for it. I think paying that $60,000 is a very small price to pay to keep people happy. That's all.
And I
That's-
think, Sam, when this surcharge kind of came through, was something that we discussed is, the potential for issues with employee retention. Because that's one of our biggest points, when we are looking to hire people, is the fact that we do offer really great insurance and we have really great rates. That kind of helps to balance out with what the salary is for a lot of the positions here. And so that definitely affects choices or people's decisions to continue to serve the city or to actually come on brand new.
And let's be realistic. If we didn't have that, would we be talking about this?
We didn't have one.
If we didn't have that across the street, would we be talking about this?
No.
So you know what I'm saying, that's the thing. It's like we should not put the burden on people that are working here really hard, in my opinion, that are working here really hard for us to keep us afloat, because some people did some bad things in the past. And I understand that it will save us some money. This money ain't gonna keep the lights on. It's not gonna bankrupt us. It's not gonna do any of that. I just don't think that this is the best time right now in this economy where people are To just say like, okay, now we gonna give you another thing when we're not paying you that much anyway to like pay for yourself. I just don't like I don't like the idea of it.
Here, here.
So let me ask this question. In this projected shortfall that we have for 25, did you include this?
Yeah, if this resolution doesn't pass, you can increase that deficit to about 200,000.
On the real side, you know?
Yeah. And also, I mean, honestly, section 1 isn't gonna, it's only a few $1,000s, so whether you do the, take it in part or do the whole thing, I mean, the spousal surcharge, I think, is what potentially offers to save the most money. But yeah, everything you said, Mayor Pro Tem Campbell, is exactly right. It's definitely a bargaining chip, but I definitely want to give the council every option that we have if we're going to try and get that deficit down. So,
Okay, so if we have an employee who is a full-time employee who has good insurance, that has this insurance, and they have 3 kids, what is that person paying for insurance?
405.
if they have 1 kid, if they have 6 kids, they are paying $120.
Say, just use me, Sam, my wife, me, and my 1 son. Because this was part of the reason I decided to come here, was the insurance.
And it's the reason that
And I
all,
took a cut in pay to come here.
and it's
But
also
the
the,
insurance made it evened it out for me.
Yeah,
I know that Sam doesn't like to hear me say it, but I have to say it
No,
because
please.
I'm a department head of my people.
right.
A lot of the bargaining tool that we have when we go out to the police academies to recruit is the health insurance program. It's why we're able to vet and attract so many applicants to come here despite our kind of substandard pay. Right now, you've got the average pay for a police officer starting around $70,000 and we're at $52,000. So we have very little to incentivize people to come here, and the health insurance program is one of those things that offsets the disparity in pay. Whereas, for example, we use Jefferson County because we recruit at Jefferson County a lot. Their health insurance program for employee plus children is around $500 a pay period, up to $700, so they could pay $1,000 to $1,400 a month for insurance. When you amortize that out, that's the
that's the
$17,000,
difference.
$18,000 pay difference, where they're like, well, I could go to Jefferson County and put it into benefits, or I could come here. And we have a lot of employees. I mean, more than half of our employees commute to this area more than an hour each way every day. So 2-hour commutes, we have people that live very, very far, and they're coming here because the benefit plan is what attracted them here, the sustainable benefits for employees plus families. And a lot of our police officers have stay-at-home wives. So I'm
Which
not
this
as
would
much
not
worried
affect.
about the surcharge part, but like when we're passing on more cost to the employees and we're unable to give pay increases to even offset that amount. Yeah, it's $20 a pay period, but it's several hundreds of dollars a year. And so, then they start looking, well, is it worth the drive? Is it worth the headache? Yeah, I love where I work, but this is the reason why I came here, and then I just got here and now it changed. So it almost feels like a bait and switch for me as the police chief, when that's the bargaining tool. I mean, you use what you have, right? My bargaining chip is the health insurance. It's definitely not salary, and our salary is definitely not competitive. And we're seeing that, and Councilwoman Campbell, Mayor Pro Tem Campbell is going to see that as she's looking at the people that we're able to attract, where we might get someone that has no police experience and they have some issues, or they have, lots of police experience and they have some issues, but just pulling in candidates that have nothing in their background, people that maybe 10 years ago, when I've been over the process, we would not have hired these people. And while I've been extremely lucky with some of the people I've hired, you guys have seen the numbers and the turnover. I've been unlucky too. So, I mean, if we're giving people these opportunities, but it's not sustainable long-term, we see the hits in the budget elsewhere. We see the hits in the budget when it comes to recruitment costs, psychological examinations, uniforming, outfitting, equipping people, where we're losing the money on that end because we don't pay well enough to get the higher quality candidates. So I am strongly opposed to increasing anything for my people right now, because I have nothing to give them. I have no raise, I've got nothing.
So we're gonna take out section 2 is what we're asking?
Well, honestly, I think what she was saying, and just one comment, we're not, just one thing that she said, we're not compromising significantly on our police candidates and their backgrounds. I don't want.
No,
people to
I
get
don't
that
want
impression.
anyone to think that I'm saying
Yeah.
we're hiring criminals.
No.
We're not.
Okay.
I'm just
Good.
saying-
Just that's all.
No.
I think I understand what you're saying.
If there was somebody that graduated in the bottom of their academy class, we would not look at that person.
Yeah.
Because their academics, maybe their intellect and their
The
academics
standard
were
was extremely high 10 years ago.
very.
Yeah.
And now we
So,
might look
yeah.
at the person who had lower academics, but
Yeah, okay, so, and then to answer your question, I believe she's actually more opposed to section 1 than section 2. Because section 1, so, right now I believe it's like 55, so, for employees, I think it's 55 right now?
It's 55 for gold.
Yeah,
for
55 gold, so
employees.
you increase that by $5, multiply that by 26. We're basically giving them a $500 pay cut across the year. Okay, now it's pre-tax, so you can mitigate a little bit of that, but that's really not, it's kind of a cope. And then to go back to, just so everyone's clear, another thing that makes our insurance very attractive, especially for people with families, is we do not charge per dependent. So you could have, 8 kids and you pay the
Right.
same as someone that has 1 kid.
Yeah, because when you look at that family platinum plan, it's $4,860 a year would be coming out of somebody's pay.
Yeah, well, and platinum plan, yeah,
Deductible's a little different.
most of our people are in gold. Usually
Right.
platinum only attracts like people who know
single
that
people
they've
with no
got.
kids.
And the copay is higher, is lower, rather.
Right,
Councilwoman Shivers commented that insurance is increasing for everybody.
it is increasing for everybody. That is-
But most people's pay is also increasing too.
Yeah. So anyways, again, I understand both arguments. I'm not particularly, I do think the spousal surcharge is a way to potentially get around some of the negative benefits and save some money. But I do want to make sure that you guys have every tool available, especially since we're looking at a deficit. But definitely important enough that I wanted to bring to you guys.
As much as it concerns me about the deficit, I can't vote for the spousal surcharge. I can't do it. I would have to agree with these two ladies here. I just can't see it. We need, with our lack of starting salaries, people wonder why these officers are leaving. Well, if they're leaving because of this, how do you expect to hire them if you're gonna expect them to pay more? I mean, so to me, it's a long-term thing, so.
So we're not talking about taking that out right now, are we?
What?
The surcharge, section 2.
So we do not,
We don't do that.
We don't do
We
it.
don't- we don't do that right now.
This
Oh,
is
you
a-
don't do that?
yeah, right now,
We're going to do it?
No, this is,
If you
okay,
pass
so
it, we would.
if you pass this, we're telling employees that this is how much they're gonna have to
Oh,
contribute. and
which
then
is
we're-
an increase.
And we're telling them that they're gonna have to have a spousal surcharge, so they have to do section 1 and section 2.
So we can take.
You could take, yeah, you could
You
take
could-
either one of
You
them
can
out,
take
or
both
you
of them
can
out,
shoot
you
them
can say
down.
no.
Yeah,
You can say, I don't like it, and let's just keep
I don't
things
like
the way
it.
that they are, and that means no to both. Or you could say, I like one, but I want to.
Councilwoman Shivers commented that she agrees that the police insurance should be increased with the economy.
So this is increased by $5, this is what you said?
well, no, so 10%, so it's $5 for employee only, it's, more like, I think it's more like $20 for family gold.
Yes, it's $20
Yeah.
higher for me
Yeah.
per pay period.
So section 1 is just a standard 10% for everybody.
Right,
That's what you're saying.
yeah.
And they would have to pay.
And I tell you, that's not bad what they're playing right now.
No, it's not, but it is the bargaining chip.
Yeah.
Which I will say, on, just devil's advocate.
I mean,
We've been
I pay
hiring,
more than that, and I work for an insurance company.
yeah, and it's particularly attractive for people
Too.
with children. Because you'll go, even other municipalities and other people you would think have good insurance will say 50% per dependent. which is what we're talking about with the spousal surcharge. Like, that is just outright their policy, 50% per
And
dependent.
I would definitely say that's how the city of Jennings had approached it, because actually not even 50%, we would fully charge dependents.
Wow.
Because,
Per
ACA
head?
plans are age-based. So, the older a person is on a plan,
The
the
higher
more,
the
the higher the
age, yeah.
premium is. And so, when I saw this coming in, I definitely was like, wow, this is fantastic, this is amazing. The insurance is very comparable to what I had before, and I didn't have to pay as much as I did in the past.
Yeah, but then I mean, it's also not hard to find cities that do pay better than us that have very similar plans as well.
Correct.
So-
They have good insurance and good pay.
Yeah,
Just-
those
The
exist
University
as
of
well.
Missouri, where we just lost 5 people too.
Yeah. And I think that Sam has done a very good job of Sam has done a very good job of looking for ways for us to cut the budget. I'm just opposed to both of them. I don't think this is where we go to do it on the, and I hate to go so far as to say on the backs of the people. God, that's such a cliche, but I just don't want to do it. I just don't.
Let me ask this question. I mean, I've worked in lots of places, but the last place I worked in particular, where the budget was so tight that all employees had to take a hit. Just everybody across the board had a percentage of loss, and their salaries were actually cut. Never hit the insurance. What happened with that money is that it gave, the way that the university did it, and then got sued later on, but is they took money that would have gone to the employees for health and put it in a reserve, so it could kind of build some interest. And then after the fiscal crisis was over, the university was required to give that money back to people. So it kind of screwed up my taxes for a year or two as a retiree. But do we need to make it, I don't remember what the raises, the percentage of raises are. There's no COLA, as we're not gonna do that, right?
No, there's no COLA proposed, although we really, that's a big deal. I mean,
I know.
yeah, right. That's a big deal, but no, there's no COLA proposed. So that means, depending on people's performance, they could get a 0 to 3% raise.
So, okay, great. 3% is not an awful lot. I mean,
No, it's intended to be on top of COLA, but, yeah.
yeah.
So, can I ask a question? So, this is not their current rate for their insurance, right?
No, it's slightly lower than that.
Okay.
$5 for
Yeah,
some, the higher
it's like,
exams.
it's 10% rounded to the nearest 5 is what the increase is.
And it went up last year as well.
Yeah, actually went up pretty significantly
Significantly last year.
But it hadn't gone up in like 8, 9 years before.
The bad thing was there was nobody here from 8 or 9 years ago, with the exception of myself and a couple people that knew that. So the people that went up on, they were new, and they had just come in, and we spiked their insurance, and then we're gonna do it again this year.
How much of a spike was last year?
So for the employee base, it was an extra $25. So it used to be $25 for employee only.
Yeah.
We went up to $50, or I'm sorry, $55. So
Still pretty cheap.
it's still pretty affordable, but
It is-
again,
it is over
employee
100%
retention,
increase, but yeah, it's
hiring new
dollars, yeah.
candidates. Yeah.
In the big scheme of things, I know that we're doing a lot, we're having a lot of discussion about like dollar amounts, but I think it's really critical for everyone to just remember at the outset, our salary is on average $15,000 to $20,000 lower than every other police department, where they could go and they could find gainful employment, and they're doing it.
And they get other benefits other than, I mean, if they're going to Umsel, they get all the benefits of the university. if they're-
Correct.
Right.
I mean, and it's bad when we're, no slight to UMSL, but it's bad when we're losing commissioned police officers to go be university police officers, like basically security guards, because of pay and benefits and things that I just don't foresee us in the next 2 to 3 years being able to be competitive. But the co-op makes more than us. Pagedale's going up to $60,000. Why come to Normandy if I could go to Pagedale and make an additional $8,000 there and have good benefits?
And let's remember the past, as the past was. That happened, people got fired for being white, and we got a bunch of lawsuits. Our insurance went up. So if these things had not happened, and like right now, we're being asked to, we have to figure out some kind of way to help it. I think that the people that work in this office are helping it, and having these people here are beneficial, and I just don't want to see people that have worked so hard to get us to where we are, like we saying to them, now we want you to pay. They already paying. They working hard, they're already paying. I don't
Really
think,
tight budget.
I don't think we need to make them pay any more
No.
than they've already paid. So I don't like one, and I don't like two, and I just don't like.
Unless there's any other questions about how it works or what we're talking about, should we have a vote?
Can I get a motion, anybody wanna make a motion?
Can you give a motion?
Anybody wanna make a motion for
Make a motion.
resolution number 24-39?
2439.
If there's no motion. we
If there's
can
no
bring
motion,
it.
it's dead. I don't have, we don't have to worry about
Right.
it. No motion?
If you don't want to actively vote it down, you can do it that way too.
Yeah.
Your
No
phrase
motion,
is
all
right.
right, lacking a motion, it's,
Dead.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
You want to
Thank
do it
you.
louder?
What- I heard a little conversation about, volunteers, having volunteers do things.
Oh, and I asked, remember when we, you received, I asked Andrew.
I trust that the traveler's policy is